researchers from 11 Boyle of Manila Science High School. Our study is entitled Filipino Religiosity as Experienced by Sabsaban Devotees.
The population of the planet has been rapidly growing these past years, and among the billions of people, it is estimated that about 40% belong to the Roman Catholic region. The third largest Catholic population in the world is found here, in the Philippines, where practices are fervent and wide-ranging. 86% of the population in the Philippines belong here. In a study published by Lozanes in 2014, Filipinos are known to be religious and spiritual because of strong Catholic upbringings, brought about by Spanish conquistadors. Filipinos stand out for their devotional fervor, where there are powerful celebratory and penitential rituals or practices being experienced in a wide variety of Filipino vernacular forms. According to Shaman, 80% of his respondents say that they depend on God for help and guidance in decision-making, and 61% of the same respondents believe that God has determined the direction and the course of their lives. However, these devotions can also be backed up by Hobbes' ethical theory that states that men are self-centered, driven by self-desires. However, here in the Philippines, a church can be seen to practice 3 long hours of Latin Mass, once every month, and thought to be miraculous. When Roman Catholic was introduced to the Philippines, the celebrations were conducted in full Latin, thus causing people to be more disciplined and respect the celebration much more, because it was introduced using a foreign medium. Ideally, Latin Masses should be cultivated here in our country. However, due to the Philippines being greatly affected by the post-Vatican era, it is not happening. Instead, there are only institutions who practice these Masses, and churches are only reviving them for big events. To bridge this problem, the researchers would propose a descriptive framework on how Filipino religiosity is characterized by the devotees of Our Lady of Guadalupe Munting Sabsaban Church, or Sabsaban Church, which is among the 19 churches left practicing Tridentine Masses here in our country.
Traditional Latin Masses are known to be a sacred living treasure of the Roman Catholic Church. It is the form of the Mass celebrated by the Church for centuries before the liturgical reforms that came after the Second Vatican Council. Numerous saints were witnesses of this Mass. Although being around for centuries, it is still present because of Pope Benedict XVI's apostolic letter issued in July 2007, which states that priests of the Latin Church may celebrate Mass according to Missal promulgated by Blessed John XXIII. The parish church of Our Lady of Guadalupe was built in December 2007 by Jeronimo B. de las Rias for miraculously healing his beloved daughter after praying fervently at Our Lady of Guadalupe Chapel in San Francisco. Filipino religiosity has no single definition, as new perspectives keep on emerging as time passes by. In our modern society, Tridentine Mass is no longer practiced as much as it was before. The researchers want to denote Filipino religiosity through the lived experience of Sabsaban devotees in order to create a descriptive framework that will describe Filipino religiosity through the lived experience of Sabsaban devotees, and can also be used in studies that pertain to religious beliefs or practices in the Philippines.
Qualitative research was used because it is defined as an inquiry process of understanding a social or human problem. It is used to answer questions about experience, meaning, and perspective, most often from the standpoint of the participant. A descriptive phenomenological method developed by American psychologist Amadeo Giorgi in 1970 was used. This approach was used because it is a form of qualitative research that focuses on the study of an individual's lived experiences within the world. To accomplish this research, specific co-researchers had to be interviewed. Certain criteria were defined. First, the co-researchers should be a devotee of the Sabsaban Church. Secondly, the co-researcher should be someone who believes in miracles and has experienced one. The Sabsaban Church was deemed suitable to be the study site as it was unique compared to other Catholic churches. Despite it being located in the Philippines, the language used in the ceremony is Latin. It also differs in the fact that the Mass only takes place every first Saturday of the month, which lasts for 3 hours. It is one of the few churches in the Philippines that conducts a Tridentine Latin Mass.
Before gathering data, the topic of the research study was discussed with the co-researchers and their permission to be interviewed was obtained. Respondents were briefed beforehand of the questions to be asked to them. To respect the privacy of the co-researchers, they were given a choice between having their statements audio recorded or for them to be captured in film. Regarding their statements, only the researchers have access to audio recording, videos, and transcripts of their interview with the researchers. To accomplish this research, specific co-researchers had to be interviewed. Certain criteria were defined. First, the co-researchers should have been attending the Sabsaban church activities for at least a year. Secondly, the co-researcher should be someone who believes and experienced a miracle. Conducting an interview was the most appropriate method of data collection to be used because through this, the researchers were able to collect statements that would answer the problem of the research. The interview was composed of a set of questions in a conversational and informal manner. The Sabsaban church was chosen by the researchers as the study site and was deemed suitable to be the study site as it was unique compared to other Catholic churches because of the fact that the Mass only takes place every first Saturday of the month, which lasts for 3 hours. Interviews were recorded in audio format by the researchers. To start off analyzing said data, statements from the conversational interviews was later on transcribed. Transcripts were put in through the winnowing process in order to saturate and secure critical data needed for the study. Winnowed transcripts were then submitted to continuous reviews before going through the coding process. The researchers assigned words or phrases to each statement and reviewed them until they could be clustered and categories can be made from the coded text. The coding process was done by researching for similar terms that are mentioned or discussed for every co-researcher's transcripts. Through this process of transcribing, winnowing, coding, and clustering, the researchers were able to analyze the data they have gathered for the purpose of the study.
The phenomenological research conducted by researchers generated a model of pride and domicile, a model denoting the Filipino religiosity of Munting Sabsaban Church devotees. The categories, namely ascetic, communal, and corporeal, characterize the religiosity of the respondents as reflected through their lived experiences. Findings of the study showcase the different ways a devotee of Sabsaban Church could show their religiosity, starting off with the corporeal category, which are physical objects that strengthen the faith and belief of the Sabsaban devotees. The researchers also observed that the devotees of Sabsaban Church form a small community within themselves, sharing a bond through their religiosity, bringing to us the second category, communal. Lastly, the ascetic category, showing that after forming a community, a change is present. Through these findings, a model was made which could be used as a reference for future studies and articles on the religiosity of Filipinos.
In many different ways, faith is unseen and subjective depending on the person. Sabsaban devotees all started as Roman Catholics who didn't have any knowledge about the existence of the Sabsaban Church, its ways and practices. But they all have one thing in common. They had faith and they believed that miracles can happen. The Sabsaban Church is believed to be a place where miracles can happen, that through their practices the sick can be healed. In addition to this, it also houses relics. It uses different physical objects that they use to conduct their practices. These things draw the people to go to the Sabsaban Church. Through corporeal symbols that mirror their faith and beliefs, they are motivated to attend the Mass, and thus forming a sense of devotion to the belief of the Sabsaban Church. A cognitive anthropologist named John LaVey and educational theorist Etienne Wenger explained the theory of community of practice. They have mentioned that a community of practice is a group of people who share concern and passion, and learn how to do better as they interact regularly. They have showed their religiosity through close-knitted community, with complete harmony and peace, forming a centralized devotion. It was also worth noting that the co-researchers were able to distinguish newcomers and were able to guide them on how to conduct themselves during the ceremony. The highest tier is known to be ascetic, and this changes are present in order to fulfill spiritual goals. There's a relationship present between Catholicism and community volunteerism and participation. This can be backed up by Lehman's theory of change. where it stated that there are three changes of change: the refreeze, unfreeze, and change. We can tell that the asceticism among the devotees are implemented to the change state of the said theory, because they implement change among themselves through helping others in need.
Thank you for listening.